This video is for you if you want to find the answers to cosmic questions like what is this universe, who are you, and want to put a stop to overthinking, negative thinking, and find a way to live a permanent, happy, and peaceful life. Hi, I'm Aiman, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you 5 best lessons from the book The Greatest Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, now you can see it. So this book can be considered as a sequel to The Secret, which was released in 2006. The Secret mainly talks about the law of attraction. However, this book goes one level up and it teaches us how to become more efficient towards attracting what we want. So let's delve into it. Lesson 1. You are awareness. It's quite amusing that it's often through suffering which leads to one asking questions like, what is life all about? For example, take Buddha. When he first-hand witnessed suffering himself, that's when he set out in search for the truth. Now, what truth did he find out? It is the truth that you are not your body or your mind. Your body being your physical self. But what is your mind? That's a good question to ask. What is your mind? Do you know? Your mind is just an instrument through which thoughts are produced. So can we say that when there are no thoughts, there is no mind? Listen to this again. Your mind is just an instrument through which thoughts are produced. So when there are no thoughts, that means there is no mind. Now ask yourself, am I aware? As soon as you asked yourself if you're aware, you went into this state of awareness. Suddenly you realized you're in this world. It's like a dawn of realization that you're actually here, you're in the present moment. Right? So that's awareness. Now when I asked you to ask yourself that if you're aware, your answer can't be anything but yes, because if you weren't aware, you wouldn't be able to answer that question. Here's another trick to deep dive into the stream of awareness. Ask yourself, what am I thinking about? As soon as you ask yourself that, there's a flick of awareness in your mind and you're like, wow, all the thoughts disappeared in your mind and you're in a continuous stream of awareness. You're in the present moment and you feel everything around yourself and it's all good. Let's continue this mystical journey of revelation of truth and let's move on to lesson number 2. Lesson 2. We are one. Now there's this fundamental mistake that many believe, that we are experiencing awareness. We cannot experience awareness, only awareness can experience awareness. The body and the brain cannot experience awareness because the body and the brain are being experienced by awareness. Let me repeat this. The body and the brain cannot experience awareness because the body and the brain are being experienced by the awareness. Fascinating, isn't it? I'll tell you another mind-blowing thing. There is only one awareness, and it's the same awareness that is operating through everybody. It's not like I have a different awareness, you have a different awareness, the dog has a different awareness, the eagle has a different awareness, the parrot has a different awareness. You get the point. The point being, infinite awareness runs through us all and we are one. It's actually quite contradictory to what we have been taught since childhood, that each person has a separate consciousness or awareness. But if you take into account that every separate thing has a clearly defined boundary, this book is a separate thing because it has a clearly defined boundary. Everything which is separate, which we consider separate, has clearly defined boundaries. But is there any boundaries to consciousness? Is there any boundaries to awareness that we can see? Now you might be having questions like, if there is only one awareness, why am I not aware of sensations, thoughts and feelings in others' body? Or why can't I see what the eagle is seeing from the sky? And those are valid questions. It is because, as the author tells us, that our consciousness is funneled through our mind, making it localized to our body. Our consciousness is funneled through our mind, making it localized to our body. And we believing that we are a separate person is stopping us from exploring the full expansiveness of awareness. So we have the option to put our attention to thoughts in our mind or put our attention to awareness that we are. We need to put our attention to awareness as often as possible in a day. But how do we do that? Let's find out. Before we move on to lesson number 3, I want to introduce you to the greatest secret, best lessons. So for whatever reason you are not able to purchase the whole book, or if you do not have the time to read the whole book, all that I've learned in these 228 pages, I'm giving you in 32 pages. The best lessons from each chapter of the book. You'll get quotes, you'll get explanations by me, plus you'll get some bonus content at the end. So if you're interested, you can click the link in the description. You can get it for $1, which is approximately 83 rupees. So let's move on. Lesson number 3. Consciousness, a way out of negative thinking. So I used to have this roommate. I still have contacts with him, but not as much. So I used to have this roommate who used to bug me a lot. Like, he would always put me in a constant state of stress, worry, tension and all those negative emotions. Question every decision I make, question everything I do. What if this happens when I do that? What if that happens when I do this? Now guess what? We all have that roommate. And it's our mind. Awareness is the only effective way, I would say, to end a negative thought. So let's find out about the awareness practice which is mentioned in the book. Let's go. The awareness practice includes 3 very simple steps. Step number 1, ask yourself, am I aware? Step number 2, notice awareness. So if you ask yourself, am I aware? You delve into the stream of consciousness. Suddenly you're putting your attention towards awareness and you're noticing awareness. And then step number 3, stay as awareness. Now if we are in the beginner stage that we actually are, we are learning, staying for a longer duration as awareness can be quite a task. So to make it easier, here's a tip. If you're focused on a particular thing, for example, the wall, the ceiling, the bottle, the pen, if you're focused on any particular thing, if your gaze is logged onto a particular thing, your mind tends to produce more thoughts. Those thoughts can be positive or negative, any thoughts, but the mind tends to produce more thoughts if you're focused on a particular thing. So what can we do? We can widen our gaze, take in as much of scenery as possible, and that will help us to stay as awareness for a longer duration. I'm sure you must have noticed it yourself that when you're concentrated on doing a particular task, if you're concentrating on a particular object, you're always thinking something. Whereas if you're in an open field, you can absorb as much of the scenery as possible. You're more in the moment, you're more present in the moment. And that's awareness. In the book, there is also talk about this metaphorical mountain of consciousness. Now, what is this mountain of consciousness? Imagine if this is the mountain of consciousness and we are at the bottom right now. So our view is very limited, very narrow. We can only see what is happening around us. So as we slowly but steadily climb this mountain of consciousness, our view broadens and we can see new horizons. So as we climb higher and higher, new perspective gets unlocked because we can see farther than we used to. The point being, the fear of the unknown gets dissolved because new perspectives are unlocked when we go higher in this mountain of consciousness because we can see farther than we used to. Interesting, isn't it? Lesson number 4. Effective way of thinking. Now I'll tell you a very interesting fact. The mind only has 3 types of thoughts. It compares, it measures, and it describes. So it is measuring when it says stuff like, it will take me 5 hours to reach from here to there. Manchester United scored 3 goals against Liverpool and stuff like that. That's measuring. It compares when it says stuff like, I like this and not that. I prefer this more than that. I dislike this and I'd rather have that. I'd rather take longer shots than shorter shots because shorter shots are more hodgepodge and they take more time. And the last, the mind is always describing whatever we see as though we already don't see it. The mind is always commentating on everything we see. There's a line in the book, awareness is always observing and the mind is the one who is always judging. Negative thoughts produce negative feelings and in turn those negative feelings produce even more negative thoughts and vice versa. Positive thoughts produce positive feelings and in turn those positive feelings produce even more positive thoughts. Now one of the most important things to note here is that whatever negative feeling comes out of us was already stored within us as a suppressed feeling. Since childhood we have suppressed so many negative emotions and those are the same emotions, same negative emotions which come out of us right now. So what's the best way to release the negative feelings or suppressed feelings? I'm using them synonymously because negative feelings are the only ones we suppress. So what's the best way to release suppressed feelings, suppressed emotions? Now one of the most common notions is that expression of suppressed emotions is the best way to release them because when we express, we let it out, right? No. Look at it this way. When our body has built up enough steam inside it, it only lets a certain amount of pressure off so that the rest can be maintained within. Make sense? So is expression the best way to release suppressed emotions? And if not, then what is, right? The name of this lesson is effective way of thinking. I'll give you a very simple answer. Positive thinking. Optimistic thinking is obviously the best way of thinking, effective way of thinking. But what about those negative feelings, negative thoughts, negative emotions? How do we get rid of them? How do we release them? And that's when we move on to lesson number 5. Dealing with negative feelings. See that thoughts and feelings are like a train that enters a station and then leaves. Be like the station, not like a passenger. If you think about it, in this whole wide universe, your mind is the only thing you have genuine control over. You can't control the weather, you can't control other people. It's your mind that you have genuine control over. So why lose it? So the next time a negative feeling arises, I want you to ask yourself, am I that or am I the one who is aware of it? Am I the negative feeling or am I the one who is aware of the negative feeling? This question will sap out most of the energy from that negative feeling and it will help us not to identify with that negative feeling, rather just be a mere observer of it. Now let's move on to a very good practice, very effective practice that is mentioned in the book to release the negative feelings. The super practice. The super practice involves 2 steps. Step number 1, welcoming anything negative. Step number 2, staying as awareness. So let's start with step number 1. Welcoming anything negative. There's a quote by Carl Jung. Whatever you resist persists. So let's do this activity. Take your palm and ask somebody else to put their palm on it. Since I don't have anyone, I'm doing it on my own. And you both start pushing. Push, push, push. You feel the resistance and you're pushing and then suddenly you decide not to push anymore, not to resist anymore, and you let go. What happens when you let go? Both the hands drop. Similarly, when you decide not to resist a negative feeling anymore, what happens? It drops away. This is quite the opposite to what we have always done, and that's why we have so many suppressed feelings within us. But the unwanted feeling is there in our body, and letting it stay will help releasing it. If instead of suppressing feelings, we release them, they will never be as strong in us again. Why? Because we are releasing the energy we have focused around that feeling. And as a result, you'll feel much lighter and happier than ever. And now I will read you a passage from the book. After doing these steps for a while, you'll discover that awareness automatically becomes more dominant and present within you, and your mind becomes much quieter. Other indications of how you're doing are: your life will become easier and more effortless. You'll feel more peaceful. Things that used to bother you won't bother you anymore. You'll feel calmer. Your emotions will be more stable. And you'll find you're not easily swept away with negative emotions. In fact, you will begin to feel a sense of happiness that you have not felt before. You'll become more acutely aware of your mind's propensity to complain, criticize, and focus on negativity. And you'll find you're not giving your mind power over you like you used to, because you've taken your attention away from your thoughts. The Greatest Secret. It is a must read, and for whatever reason you're not able to purchase it, you're not able to read it, you can always click the link in the description and get the ebook. And with that, we come to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Cheers.